Sex isn't intimacy. Sex is pleasurable and becomes more pleasurable when you have intimacy. Not sold? Let's rethink love, relationships, and sex. Let me seduce you. You are listening to the Linguist of Love. Welcome to the Erotic Renaissance. Hello, and welcome to the Erotic Renaissance. I am Meg de la Torre, your Linguist of Love. Today, we are going to spend some time discussing erotic art, one of our focuses for the year. My goal in this episode is to begin my journey into creating my own erotic art as an independent artist. If you heard from my first episode, you probably got from the clue in the introduction that I am starting a journey into creating erotic art through OnlyFans. For those of you who already signed up to support me there, thank you so much. It was really exciting to see you find me. I'm really excited about the work that I'm beginning over there, and I am starting it off right by asking my voyeurs to join me in helping me to fulfill a fantasy of mine. So if you are over on OnlyFans, you already know what that is. Thank you so much for supporting me in fulfilling my fantasy. As always, links on how to become a part of the Erotic Renaissance and support the show are in the description below, so there will never be commercials here. We like to keep it smooth and sensual, right? This episode will start with a little erotic context where I will introduce you to how I collided with pornography, where I got my spark of a sensual awakening and learned that I had always wanted to create erotic art one day. Then I'll invite you along to redefine terms with me to set the mood for this year. And finally, I'll explain what my intentions are with the erotic art that I'm creating and the promises that I want to make to my voyeurs. Now, if you are taken back or worried by my choice, let me start by noting how important it feels for me to not only create erotic art, but to do it in a way that feels good to me and embodies the kind of erotic art that I've always wanted to see for a really long time. I tend to be really turned on, like I mentioned in the last episode, by language. And I think that that's where a lot of pornography failed me early on. And I'll get into that. Most of the people in my life are probably not aware that this dream was a fantasy for me for quite some time. So to start us off, I'll give a little background on my relationship with pornography and erotic art. When I was first entering through the very rough time of puberty, I found pornography. With a mother and a father who avoided this topic like it was the most shameful act one could engage with, it was only a first toe into the waters of my sexual awakening. However, the pornography I found was jarring and not believable. So while I watched it, I often ended the video feeling shameful and confused. I had so desperately wanted to see it and understand it, but I was left to wishing I had never searched for it in the first place. That was until I found music videos, like really watched music videos. Now that did something for me that pornography had previously not done, at least not yet. I think what it was that I wanted and needed pornography to play with my emotions. Otherwise, I felt unfulfilled by it. That's possibly because I love a character I can admire and an adventure that is woven by a narrative. And maybe that is what makes something erotic to me. The first music video that led me on a sexual awakening was Hurricane by 30 Seconds to Mars. If you have not seen that, I will put it in the description below in the sources section. It was beautiful and artful and the images mixed with the music in such a way that pulled and pushed me and my emotions in an artful dance that I had longed for from pornography, but had fallen short by the examples I had found back then. But while I watched Hurricane, I was enlivened by the video in a way that made me aspire to be in and create art like that. I took on watching pornography after this in a new way. I began studying it. I enjoyed when the artist had chemistry and when it was cinematic, or when the effort could at least be recognized. And I started realizing that the turn-on that kept me watching was the imaginary fantasy that I was actually one of the artists that I was watching. And as I discovered through 2021, I am interested in performing erotically. The notion of seducing voyeurs to explore sex in new ways is so hot to me. So much so that I decided I wanted in this year. Now, before I continue, I want to make sure to pause and say how important I believe pornography truly is. I believe it to be a beautiful resource and tool in order to understand where your own personal boundaries are. I see it as a beautiful psychological tool also, and I'll get more into that later over the course of the year. But I want to make sure to say that without the sacrifices of those artists in the past who experimented and took risks, I wouldn't be in the place I am today, where I feel actually empowered to create in this genre, to dream of creating in this genre, actually. Thus, I do not want you, my listener, to take from this episode that pornography is bad, because I honestly don't feel that way. However, I believe that pornography can be and should be more recognized for the powerful medium that it is. And I think part of that change can begin by, 1, redefining pornography as erotic art, and 2, raising the standards for the way that artists in the sex industry get treated by other creators, voyeurs, and society at large. By creating erotic art that centers the artist and their own comfort and safety, which we're not always sure that we see, we open the world to ethical practices of creating erotic art and enjoying erotic art, and in effect, treat our sex workers as human beings. Now let me get into what I want my erotic art to do. In creating my own erotic art independently, I realize that I'm in a privileged position. I have more control over the art that I make and what I choose to not experience. So, as a hopeful catalyst for change, I feel it is my responsibility to also advocate for the treatment of those who are not in the privileged position that I am in. In an effort to do so, I will be reserving 5% of the profits from the sale of my erotic art to go to nonprofits and organizations that provide services and resources towards the same mission of demanding human rights for sex workers and destigmatizing sexuality. While I don't believe that all erotic art needs to have a goal or a mission or an intention, it is important for me. I've noticed that it turns me on more to create art when I have a mission behind it, so I want to talk about that briefly. My goal in creating erotic art is to create an opportunity for holistic enjoyment, meaning it's not just sexual pleasure, it's not just the physicality of it, it is holistic, so it takes different parts of the experience. By holistic, I mean a lot of different things, some of which I'm still figuring out and discovering, but the ones that come to mind most predominantly are that it's not just about the physicality, that you're not only watching for arousal, even though I'm very pleased if that's where you start, but I want my art to do a lot more than just that. So, in an effort to create erotic art that can be enjoyed holistically, this is what I hope my art does. I hope that it celebrates the human behind the erotic art. And while it is traditionally most enjoyed by men, I want to prove that erotic art can be enjoyed by everyone, especially women who have often felt uncomfortable voyeuring pornography. And that is because I am making the erotic art that I have always wanted to enjoy. I want it to prove that pornography can indeed be emotionally fulfilling. And that is because I will be creating erotic art based on the theories of love languages and building trust and communication. I want it to prove that you can create erotic art that you are proud of, and that it doesn't have to be a shameful choice to be in sex work. Further, that an artist, a woman in my case, can be in power of what they create and can be empowered by their own creations. I want it to challenge society's notion that sex and kink are shameful, and may it then be a catalyst for change within our society. I want my erotic art to provide a model of ethical and erotic, sensual, and sexual behaviors where consent, safety, and comfort are prioritized, while still exploring taboos in a way that is safe for my voyeurs. And finally, I want my erotic art to prove to myself that a man will admire me for the work that I'm doing and want to be a part of my life and will want to love me for exactly who I am. This is something that I was taught would never happen if I chose to create erotic art. So that one is especially for myself. And I want to get into some promises to my voyeurs. In an effort to create erotic art that is ethically made, I want to make some promises. I will only feature art that I am proud of and carry no shame of, meaning that I wanted to perform and enjoyed the performance, and that I want you to enjoy what I created. I will only invite other collaborative partners and other erotic artists that I want to perform with, meaning that I am never coerced and there will always be chemistry. I will build trust with you actively, which means that enjoying my art will be more fulfilling for you, leaving you with less feelings of guilt and shame. We will work on intimacy here as well as eroticism. I will create erotic art for people with different love languages, meaning that I will create art that is stimulating in mind, body, and soul. I will care for your emotional and mindful well-being, meaning that I will place trigger warnings whenever possible. So if a certain subject or theme is scary for you, or you're not sure how you feel, you can move with trepidation. However, if I make a mistake, thank you for being patient, and please do let me know so I can adjust for the future and apologize. I will only be as vulnerable as I feel comfortable, meaning that the art you are consuming was consciously crafted with my boundaries and comfort in mind. So please know that I am comfortable with you seeing it. I am not creating art that is meant to hurt anyone. Thus, it is solely for enjoyment and is lovingly created with the care and intention to heal society's relationship to eroticism and our sex-based nature as humans. Again, if I make a mistake, please do let me know. And as always, thank you for your patience as I navigate something very new to me. I am excited to begin this endeavor with you, so please know that I am not being forced into this. Rather, it is my choice. I want to be here and am fully enjoying being authentically myself. And finally, I promise to seduce you, but not for me. I promise to seduce you to enjoy sex more with the partner or partners that you have or want to have, and to be empowered to explore your own sexuality and sensualism at your own pace. I honor you for being here with me. To sum this episode up, thank you for being here and listening as I endeavor into something I've always wanted to do, but refused to start without a clear mission behind it. As you can hear now, I have thought about this sincerely for years and have finally gotten to the place that I feel ready to take on this next chapter of my life. I sincerely hope that the erotic art that I create leads you and others to a space in which you feel at ease with something that might have felt uncomfortable or scary or unappetizing at one point or another. I'll be on OnlyFans, as I mentioned earlier, as Linguist of Love. I'll be giving away full year subscriptions over the course of the series, so stay tuned with how you can enter to win. But if you don't want to wait, you can find the link in the description of this episode for a peek of what I am up to and what I am serving you beautiful souls over in my little piece of heaven. In closing, I want to give a special thank you to the erotic artists who came before me and who will come after me, to the voyeurs who powered pornography early on so that I could find it and learn from it, and thank you to the new audience of voyeurs who want to experience pornography in a different way. Thank you to the sex icons I looked up to as a young woman, even though I wasn't exactly sure why just yet. And most of all, I want to thank all of you. Thank you for joining me for an erotic renaissance. I'm your linguist of love. Let me seduce you.